Have you ever done something in the heat of the moment only to regret it later? We all have. Sometimes the consequences of our actions are far greater than we expect. But what if we took a moment to think before acting? This is the story of a stork and an egg thief, a story that shows just how important it is to stop and think before you make a decision. Once upon a time, in a peaceful village, there was a small, beautiful pond surrounded by tall trees and thick green grass. It was home to many birds, but among them there was one that stood out: the stork. The stork wasn't like the other birds. She was known for her wisdom and her careful nature. Unlike the others who would fly from tree to tree without a second thought, the stork always thought things through. She built her nest high in the tallest tree, where she could see the entire village below. From there, she watched over the land, keeping an eye on everything, always ready to offer her advice to anyone who needed it. But one day, something unexpected happened. Early one morning, the stork returned to her nest after a long flight. As she landed on her perch, she noticed something that made her heart race. Her eggs were missing. The stork's mind raced. Who could have taken them, she thought. She had worked so hard to build her nest, carefully arranging the branches and making sure the eggs were safe. The thought of someone stealing them made her feel sick. Frantically, she searched the area around her nest. There, hidden behind a bush, she spotted a shadow. It was a small, sly weasel, known for his tricks around the village. He had been seen before, sneaking into other birds' nests and stealing eggs. This was no coincidence. Without a second thought, the stork spread her wings and swooped down, determined to catch the thief and teach him a lesson. She was furious. How dare he steal from her? How dare he take what she had worked so hard to protect? As she flew toward the weasel, a thought crossed her mind. What if I'm wrong? But it was too late. She had already made up her mind. The anger had clouded her judgment. With incredible speed, the stork dove straight for the weasel, her sharp beak aimed right at him. She would not let him get away. But just as she was about to strike, the weasel turned around, startled, and held something up to her. Her eggs. The stork froze, her heart pounding in her chest. "I wasn't stealing them, I was protecting them," the weasel said, his voice trembling. "I saw a hawk circling above. It was going to take them, so I took them to keep them safe." For a moment, everything stood still. The stork's anger melted into confusion. She had acted so quickly, without thinking, without understanding the full picture. She had almost attacked someone who was only trying to help. The weasel, though small and not always the most trustworthy creature, had acted out of kindness. He had put her eggs in a safer place, hoping to save them from the real threat, the hawk. The stork took a deep breath, her wings lowering in realization. She had acted impulsively, without taking the time to understand the situation. In her rush to protect what she cared about, she had almost caused harm instead. "Thank you," the stork said softly, her voice filled with regret. "I should have thought before I acted. You didn't steal from me. You saved my eggs." The weasel nodded, a small smile appearing on his face. Sometimes thinking things through can make all the difference. From that day on, the stork learned to pause before reacting. She learned to take a step back, to breathe, and to think before she acted. It wasn't always easy, but she realized that the world didn't always work the way it seemed at first. Sometimes the people or situations we rush to judge aren't what they seem. And so, the stork returned to her nest, now more mindful, more careful, and more patient. She would never again let anger or fear cloud her judgment. Sometimes in life, we make decisions in the heat of the moment. We react to what's in front of us without stopping to think about the bigger picture. But just like the stork, if we don't pause and think before we act, we might regret it later. Before you act, before you speak, take a moment to breathe. Look at the situation from every angle. Ask yourself, is there more to this than I'm seeing? You may find that things aren't as bad as they seem. You may discover that what you thought was a problem is actually a solution in disguise. So, the next time you're faced with a challenge, a problem, or even a person who frustrates you, remember the stork. Think before you act. Because sometimes the wisest decisions come from taking a moment to pause and reflect.
In a world that moves quickly, it's easy to rush into decisions, but the true strength lies in knowing when to slow down, when to think, and when to act with intention. The stork showed us that with patience, we can avoid mistakes and find the right path forward. So, before you act today, take a deep breath. Think it through. Your future self will thank you.
Sometimes we need to remember that decisions are like the flow of time, each grain slipping through an hourglass. The moments we take to reflect before acting shape the future we create.
When we pause, we open the door to new possibilities. Time spent thinking before acting leads to a path full of